Hello and welcome to my retro watches. Well, if you'd watched the Seiko Elnix video that I produced recently, I posed a question in that if enough people commented, I would then make a video on the Citizen Cosmotron. And here is the Citizen Cosmotron. Plenty of you have commented so far, so I figured, well, let's get the camera out and let's have a closer look. Now, the Citizen Cosmotron is another kind of hybrid mechanical and electronic watch from the 70s. Now, I do believe as well from one of the commenters in the video that Citizen were the trailblazers. They're the ones who first invented this type of movement. So it's going to be quite fascinating. I have a t-shirt on that says High Beat. Now, a shameless plug, this t-shirt along with others are available in my merch store, and there is a link sort of below somewhere. But the reason I'm wearing the High Beat one is we thought that the Seiko Elnix was a high beat at 28,800. Well, this is a true high beat. This is 36,000. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And let's then cut to the bench, get cracking with the video. Okay, before we start taking the watch apart and looking at that lovely facet crystal, this watch has got a very interesting quick set. So if we look at the day and the dates there, and I push the crown in here, you can see that it's changing the date. To change the day, if I turn the watch upside down and then press it, look, the day changes. So there's obviously some mechanism that's, I don't know, controlled by gravity in some way, so that's going to be fascinating to see how that works. I'm hoping it's pretty simple. So yeah, that's really cool. Now you can see that the watch is and isn't running. It isn't running at the moment. This is the problem. I put a fresh battery in, and what I find sometimes is that if I either loosen the back or take the back off, as you can see now, it is running. So something's going awry there as well. Not sure what that is. Let's just stick it on the time grapher, and then you can see the high beat in action, but we can also see how good or bad it's running. And typically, now I put it on there, it doesn't work. Right, let's take the back off. That's going to be the sensible thing to do. It's just a straightforward. And there we go, look, it's ticking. Right. So I do love high beats on the time grapher. They do make a heck of a racket. And you can see there, 36,000 beats per hour. And the rate's terrible. As far as I'm aware, we'd probably be ignoring the amplitude on this one, and the beat error is way out of whack. It's probably not as out of whack as you might think, because the trace looks terrible. So this watch is going to need a good clean, isn't it? Let's face it. I'm hoping there's nothing drastic in there, but who knows? So let's get on with it. Okay, let's get the stem out. And that's a little stiff thing. Well, that's a really interesting looking stem. Look at that. Can't say I've seen one like that before. Okay, there we have it. That's the dial. It's in an okay condition. I can see it almost looks like it's been heated up and melted, doesn't it? It's a bit strange. And is that a scratch or a fibre? Ah, that's great. That's a fibre. Okay, right, hands off. So I found one dial screw, but not the other. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to get this plastic off. Well, the dial has come off. Just sort of pried up, to be honest with you. Still find it a bit strange the way it's shaped. Doesn't look right to me, but maybe that is. Who knows? Either way, it is what we're working with. Right, let's start the strip down properly and see what lies await underneath this one. Typical for all my videos now. This is a movement I have never worked on before, and it's no doubt going to be full of some surprises. And for the overhead shots, I'm using my Link microscope, and the joy of this is I can record as I am now, and I can also take photographs as I go to build up a picture for reference later on. And what I'm noticing straight away is this do not oil. Brilliant. Okay, duly noted. So I'm guessing this might be something to do with the quick set, perhaps. Not sure. Be interesting to work it out. Probably on assembly more than disassembly. There's a little bit of tension on that then. So it's looking quite interesting, really. Intrigued as to what that is, a bit of debris of some sort. I just can't quite tell if that's two pieces or all for one. We'll look at that when it goes into the cleaning. So we've got a big spring here. The keyless works, which looks a little bit unusual. And the spring is attaching to this and this. That looks to be the hacking or something, perhaps. I just don't know. It's very interesting. So is that under any tension there? That's what I wonder. And I think it is from this, so I need to take that spring out first. So I'm just trying to weigh up here whether to either unscrew it or whether to pull it all the way out like I do on some of the Seikos. But my word, that's one tight spring. Good job I've got some very thick tweezers for that. Right, this part here doesn't seem to want to come off. It's pulled the movement out of the holder, so it might be something to do with getting the crown out and stuff. What is noticeable is there's no cannon pinion. It seems to everything be on the other side, which is going to make life a little interesting. So I think we should just flip the movement over and start there. So one thing to note when working on watches is screws. So these two, they're a little bit out of focus, aren't they? Let's see. These two are different to that one, and you always want to pay attention to things like that, and certainly length, because sometimes you find one screw is longer or shorter than all the others, and that can sometimes lead to problems. I say that's actually the one for the battery, I forgot. That's not so bad. So we can remove the board, and look, the coil comes with the board. Yeah, I thought that might be runny stuff, but it's not. It's just the whatever they've used to seal it. So okay, let's put that in a safe place, and then we'll try to remove the balance now as well to get that out and be safe. And I'm getting a glimpse of what's going on here, so it does look a little bit more complicated on this side. And I've not actually seen that I can remember at least, a balance that's held down by 2 screws. And if I just try and bring that into shot, that is remarkably similar, if not exactly the same, as the one in the Seiko Elnix. Difficult little thing. This will be the spring for the centre seconds, I'm guessing. Right, let's take the bridge out. That's unfortunate because the wheel's already fallen out and I don't know where that was. So that might be fun on assembly, because I don't know whether that was on the top or underneath any of these two. But we'll work it out, I'm sure. That's interesting. The whole thing is in layers. Look, so we've still got another bridge here to cover all of that. A very long escape wheel bridge, I guess. Yeah. Interesting. There's not actually a pallet fork, is there, so to speak? It's just a wheel. Very different from the Elnix. These wheels are really thick, look. And this one is stubborn, and I think that's because it's hacked. I think. Yes, must be. Well, I'm enjoying this. It's definitely different. Trying to work out things on the fly a little bit as to what goes where. That's another photo opportunity, definitely. Interesting how that works. Now I don't know if it's coming out on camera, but there seems to be quite a bit of debris in here. See little bits of specks of dirt and fibres. And the thing with this hacking lever, you know, surely that comes off, but you can't get to that screw otherwise, but it feels really tight. I think I'm going to remove this wheel and this now to be sure. So yeah, that's a very interesting wheel along with that one. I was hoping I could get this out, but it appears I can't. There we go. And again, there's just some little hair on that. I'd like to remove this bridge. 1, 2, 3. That's not a screw by lots of things. And here I'm just paying very close attention to these screws to be sure that they are all the same length. Which fortunately they are. This is a really big bridge. but it's a bridge that feels very tight. It's just, you've got to get it square on to pull it off. It's on so many of these posts. So the last few parts by the looks of things. And we've got wheel. It's interesting, it's got two sets of teeth on it. Another wheel, and another wheel. And that is actually a wheel on top of a wheel. My goodness. So look, we've got that one. She's acting as the cannon pinion, actually, look. Something else that feels like it wants to come out. Yeah, there we go. Right, I'm going to say that the watch is completely stripped down. We do have that part on the other side, but this block looks riveted, and I'm guessing that that is what it is holding it in. If I just try and turn it over. Yeah, so it appears to me that that doesn't come off. And we've got the jewel as well, which I'll do separately. So there we are, strip down is complete. Let's put it in a cleaner and then think about reassembling it. It's very, very different. Very different to what I'm used to. So going to be a great challenge, and hopefully I will succeed. Well, here we are, all main plate is clean, all the parts have been cleaned, and we're actually close to 5 months on since I took this watch apart for reasons explained in the previous video on the Garage watch restoration. Won't go into it now, but in all of that time it does make the brain a little bit foggy, and trying to remember where things go is going to be a little bit interesting on this. Now, I have tried to look at some of my previous footage, and hopefully I've got enough nous intuition to be able to assemble this one. So I've just put a little bit of D5 in that centre hole there. I've got no manual to work on either, so I'm not 100% sure what needs oiling and where. And the next wheel should be this one. There we go. Now then, is that a little bit of fibre there? It certainly is. Look at that. That would have been enough to cause mayhem with the running of the watch a little bit later on. So now I have this little wheel, whoops, that needs to fit in that hole there. Now it looks marked, or looks like there's fibre. It's actually a scratch. They're just metal pivot holes or bearings, and that one has been particularly scratched up. Try it from a different angle. There. Next part is, I guess it's the cannon pinion really, and I don't think it touches that tube. I think it sits in there free, so I'm not going to put any oil on it. And then there we go, that is that little setup. The very last wheel is the one that looks a bit like a crown wheel, and you have this big pivot because it's got to fall down that hole there, and it looks like it's falling down perfectly for me. No, it hasn't. There we go. So you can see it's meshed here, that's meshed there, and with a bit of pressure they should all turn freely. So I've just got to get the bridge on now. And I'm a little bit off my positioning there, I think. Because surely this wheel pivots on something, but then I don't know. Let's just lower it down. No, that wheel does not pivot on that. It's been such a long time. I should really spend more time learning what I did previously, but in typical fashion I just go with what feels right. Now they do seem to be meshed down here, so let's put in these screws. So before I carry on building, just going to quickly oil that wheel in there. Bit of 9010 I think, because that's quickly going to be covered up. So we have this little spring thing, and then we had this, which fits around that post, and there's a little thing on the end, and somehow it wrapped around that, didn't it? So I wonder if I've got to tuck that in first. It's only a thin piece. I don't really want to snap it. I'm trying to do all this by looking at the digital microscope, which isn't always easy. I know what I need to do. Look, pull it back like that. There you go. There you go. Voila. Okay, let's get that screw in. I can't screw it because there's another part to go with it. And now we'll just try and see if I can push that crown home. And yes, I haven't got the keyless works in of course, so I just need to leave it in the unhacked position. There we go, like that. Right, I'll put the wheels in and try and remember how they fit. There we are, that's those. Now I will say at this point in time, for anyone new to the channel, I am just a hobbyist. I am not a professional. I don't even class myself really as an amateur. I've been doing it for close to 7 years now, so I have learnt quite a bit. But you see all the mistakes, mishaps and puzzles and everything in my videos. I don't try and hide anything, gloss them over, make myself look better than I actually am. I like to be true and honest that way. I think sometimes it actually detracts from my audience, as in the amount of people who'd watch it, because some people I think just want to watch a restoration from start to finish and not really interested in all the pitfalls, and possibly why some other channels do really well. But yes, you know, I was one of the first on the platform all those years ago. There was myself and there was Mark from Watch Repair channel, which I know personally now. But of course, watch channels now, there are, well, probably hundreds I would have thought. So as you can see, just trying to put this bridge on. and I may have just managed to get them all in one go, because often with bridges they can be quite troublesome. But no, you see, look, they're all lined up. I can see the pivot and pivot of that one. So I'll quickly get the 3 screws in, and in some respects that's quite a lot of the hard work actually out the way on this watch. And with that bridge on, we'll just double check, and I can see these interacting with one another. So we're good so far. I've also fitted this little plate here, it's a riser plate really, in anticipation for the balance which will come shortly. So now we have this wheel, which I'm guessing is an escape wheel of some kind. It's just because this is a very strange setup. It doesn't have a pallet fork, and it's also got a gear on the bottom, and I can't see the hole. I can't see the jewel. Right, I think it's in place, and I've got to fit this cover part, and I've realised I'll need to remove this in order to get to the screw down there. Okay, so just found out another mistake I just made there. This wheel actually needs to go that way around with the gear facing up. I was wondering why it wasn't sitting in the jewel properly. You can kind of see it interacting there. Peculiar thing, but hopefully now the bridge will fit on okay. There's a little couple of location pins. Like so. Screws it in. Carefully nudge that with the tweezers again. Like you can see, it's all fine. So there's a part as well. We've got an oil up here, and then there's a little dust cover. Well, it's not a dust cover, it's a spring to hold the tension. That goes on the top of there. I'm always a little uneasy oiling pivots that are metal on metal, and on that, for that reason, I tend to use D5, a slightly thicker oil, just because I think it sits in place better. I've used 9010 there, which is a real thin oil. So correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just going on instinct rather than anything else. And here's the little spring. With the tiniest screw. Not the easiest of screws to navigate into that hole, but the help with a bit of pegwood or a plastic thing I've got now. Next up is the circuit block. And it kind of doesn't have any posts to locate to, it seems to just float. And it's a screw in here and in here. And this board's just been cleaned with a bit of IPA, just brushed it just to make it be a little bit better than it is. So that is that. Before we start trying to put the balance on, we've also got all the battery bit to put on as well, and then we'll be done with this side. Hopefully it's assembled correctly, given it's been many months. So this potentially is the tough bit. It has to sort of locate down here on there, and it has a big screw put into it, and it also has to tuck underneath this top screw. So I'm hoping I can do the top screw in order to put the screw in that one there, because as you can see it doesn't sit properly at all. But I am convinced that there should be a screw in here as well. There wasn't one. I've been looking through the video footage from the disassembly and there wasn't one there. Just seems a bit, this just seems really loose here. And straight away, you won't know the problem, but I do. And that coil, I keep thinking I'm doing a mechanical watch here in many respects. That coil needs to sit between the two wheels. If I turn this over, you'll see. So this has two wheels on it and two magnets. You can just see the magnets. Try and highlight them for you. It's a bit blurry, I know. Here and here. And that's what interacts with the coil. So basically all of that's got to be stripped off before I get the balance on, because I need to put the balance on first and the coil afterwards. Clever me. And now in theory there we are, just slot that in there and again do the screws up and reattach that there. Okay, job done. That's a bit of a relief. Right, managed to find that little missing screw for the battery, so I'm going to take a chance now and put a battery in, see what actually happens. Don't know if I can do this live on camera. Now notice these are carbon fibre or plastic end tweed. Hey, it's already going, look, I didn't even put the cover on. Triggered a lot of you in the Pan Am video saying I was using steel ones, and I wasn't, I was using these. So yeah, look, it is trying to run, not very well. Is it because it's in hacked? No, actually that's okay, look, that's firing up perfectly. Nice and fast. Well, that's a relief. It means I've got all the wheels in. I mean, the watch was running to start with, so have we improved it? I don't know. We need to build the other side first, get all the calendar works on. Now, we have got this jewel to deal with. I will deal with that separately a little bit later in the video. They're a bit of a fun one to talk about, so I just need to show you the insides of those if anyone's trying to follow along to this video. So great, let's flip it over and do the other side. So here we go with the keyless works on this one, or the dial side. There's not so much keyless works on this really. So put a bit of oil on there. Maybe it does interact with that. I kind of thought it didn't interact with that, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was all sort of gravity fed. Maybe I need to look at a photograph. So just pulling it out. There we go. So it goes like that, doesn't it? And that slots into there. So I remember the big part says don't oil, but it doesn't say anything about oiling here, so we'll put a bit of grease just in that slot there. And the oil is a little bit too thick for that. Come in with a thinner one. And then we had this big spring that has to be hooked underneath this to put tension and everything, so I'll put the screw in first. And if I got it right, we just need the real thick, strong pliers, tweezers. I still don't like doing this. There we go, that's in. You always worry that you'll bend something. It possibly isn't the right way, but it's the only way I can see. And now we can put the set-in lever spring on the top of that. Put a bit of oil also on here, or a bit of grease. So if you are enjoying this video, then please go give it a like, because it really does help, and that's all I want from my subscribers and viewers, really. If you like the video, it does help me, and if you can do that, I'd be very, very grateful. And then it's the set-in lever spring. But I think before I do that, I'll just put this into position. And then I should be able to just engage that. There we go. And now, apart from the movement coming loose, there we go. Not the best, like I say, the movement keeps wanting to come out the holder now all of a sudden, so just a few more parts to go. Right, so I've got to hold it down, I think, get it loaded, and then it should fall into place. Ugh. There, okay, so we get 2 screws in, and then that's that bit sorted out. Okay, now it's time to have a quick look at the shock jewels on Citizens, because they're a little bit different. At first glance you might think that that looks like old oil gathered around, but it's not. Now these things are particularly difficult to undo, especially on a microscope without, well, I like to use a loop for these, to be honest. You need very sharp tools. It's the same kind of thing as a Seiko. You've got this little cutout here, and you've got to move the spring to the cutout. And as you can see, I'm just really teasing it out with an old oiler here. What I don't want to do, of course, is let it fly away. So now that bit is out, we will just Rodico that, and I'll bring that back into shot in just a moment. So I'm going to bring the microscope just that little bit closer. So now you can see this, like almost a spring, so that's the shock or the next shot part to it, and it does look a bit grimy around inside there, and these can be a real devil to get out, and then you've got to try and remember how they go back in as well. Very difficult to do on camera. Just trying again with the old oiler, but I haven't got enough room. I've come so close. Oh, there we go. So you can kind of see, well, you can't because that's blurry. Let's just zoom out. But that one is particularly dirty, and you could almost argue it's upside down because you can see the cup, you know, for the oil, so to speak. But my understanding of these is I fell for that trick before and put them in that way thinking they're upside down, and then it doesn't work properly at all. So I'm going to clean all that off, along with, we're not going to be able to see this either very well. You can just about see the grime on the other jewel as well. Clean all that off anyway and put it back in situ. Now I won't, well, I'll spare you the trouble of that. I'll do that off camera, unfortunately. The one on the, well, the main jewel here, should I say, that's where I'm going to put the oil. So I'll put the oil on that, turn it upside down and drop it in. Normally I'd use the auto oiler, which you can do on the main plate, but on this it would mean I'd have to strip off all the hairspring and stuff, which I don't really want to do. So okay, next time you see it, it should be all running. If we're back on the dial side, first of all I've just fitted that cover plate to complete this bit other than the day wheel. But we wanted to sort of explain how this actually works, because it's actually quite fascinating. So if you remember right at the start of the video, I said you have to hold the watch one way, press the crown in, and it changes the date, and then you turn it upside down and then it will do the day. And this thing is obviously running on gravity. So if we tilt that so it then engages with the tooth there, you see, I'm going to push in the crown and you can see it latches on, and of course if it was in the right position all the time it's going to work. The moment you turn it the opposite way, you can see it swung here, and if I had the day wheel, which I haven't to hand, that's got a gear on the bottom, and again when you push this in it's going to move that gear and change that as well. Great little ingenious thing. I've never seen that before. I guess maybe only Citizen have done it. I don't know. There's thousands of movements out there. I've only touched a fraction of them. This is the first time servicing one of these. And I love it when you find something completely new that you've never seen before. So hopefully you guys have also found that fairly interesting. Okay, it's honesty box time, and off camera I've had quite an experience with this movement, and yeah, I like to come clean because I am a hobbyist and things do go wrong, and believe you me, some things have gone wrong here. So I'm going to start off with this little wheel here. So this is the one that actually jumped out at the start, if you kind of remember, and it's part of the top gear train. And essentially what happened, and it's all to do with this wheel, funny enough, is when I rebuilt the movement and I just wound the hands to make sure the hands would move, should we say. I hadn't got the dial on, just testing the keyless, I suppose. It felt really, really, really gritty, and I didn't know what it was. And first of all, the first investigation led me to this particular wheel. Now the wheel looks absolutely fine, but at the very, and I mean the very tip of that, I've broken a little bit off, and I guess that must be putting the plate on. Now I have got a better shot of this off my stereoscope, albeit it doesn't focus very well, but you can kind of see, I'll put the shot up here, that when I shine the light through the back, this particular hole is blocked. So if we look on here again, you can just about see it. Now it's only a fraction, so that was a nightmare, because then I'd have to, well, I could probably clear the hole, but I'd have to replace this, even though it looks pretty much like there's nothing wrong with it. But the grittiness carried on even when I assembled it. Oh, sorry, what am I saying? I got some parts, some donor parts. Well, I actually got a whole donor watch in the end from my friend, Mr. Andy Windle, who runs the Vintage Japanese Watch Company. He gets plenty of shout outs on this channel. He's also one of my admin team in the Facebook group. Really, really good guy. If you're into Japanese watches or you want to get them serviced, you go and see him. I'll leave a link for him below. So he actually just happened to have one of these in bits and sent me it. And this is the wheel that has the sort of cannon pinion to it. And I completely ignored it because I didn't turn it upside down. And it's one of those wheels that you have to oil in here because this top gear here rotates differently to the leaves here, and that is what was causing all the grittiness. Now I did oil this one, but it hasn't really solved it too much, so out of the donor watch I used that one in the end to get a smoother action. So there we go, that is the mishaps, but I'm not finished. There's another mishap still happening. Here is the second hand. It looks a little bit short, doesn't it? Because I blooming broke it. I was cleaning the hands in preparation to fit them, just using the Bergen hand cleaning tool I've got, and it just caught the end and snapped it off. And it's a real shame because you can't get a replacement for this particular one. The tube hole is quite unique by the looks of things. And I've actually just had to get a normal second-hand, a gold one, and I used an oiler to get in there to start with, opened up the hole, and then got a smoothing brooch to open up enough to fit on the watch. So hopefully it's going to work, and you'll find out very soon because I'll fit the hands in a minute, and hopefully, touch wood, I've salvaged the situation. But there you go. That is just proof that things do go wrong, and I'm only human. And I'm sure all you hobbyists out there have had exactly the same problems, and it is really frustrating part of this wonderful hobby. Okay, finally we've got the dial and hands back on, and it still looks a little bit rough. I have cleaned them up and the light is reflecting quite badly. It is an old watch, of course, as well. You can still see there's some stains and things on that dial. I can't get rid of those, but there you go. That's what the high beat looks like. You can see that second hand, well, it's not perfect. I've had to trim the end and it looks a bit rubbish, to be quite frank, but there we go. I've kind of lost the will to live with this watch. It's one of those that because various things have gone wrong and it's been taking me so long, I've just had enough, to be quite frank. Right, I'm going to stick it on the time grapher. I'm not sure how it's going to react on there. It is a high beat. It might be very noisy and impossible to read. I'm hoping not. So here goes. And there you go, guys. That is it on the time grapher. Now, I don't know what to make of this result at all. I have fiddled and faffed around with the regulator and the stud because they're both movable. And the beat error, I think, is just completely erroneous on these things. Don't forget, it's a sort of electronic balance. Amplitude doesn't really matter because it's being powered by a battery. I've got the rate as good as I can. The beat error, I can get it down to like 5, but the lines don't represent 5. And equally, like here, I can get them a little bit closer if I tried, but I'm happy with the fact that I'm at 0. I would have thought we should be getting straighter lines than this, but the noise of this movement is just incredible. I'm going to bring the microphone down and just see, hopefully it'll catch the tinny banging sounds of this movement, so just bear with me. So yes, it's bashing around quite a lot, and that is reflected, I think, on the time grapher. So mission accomplished on this one. I've taken the watch, it wasn't running properly at least, and now it is, and it's probably hopefully going to keep some good time. So let's finish the video showing you the finished watch. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new, and leave your comments below. I'd be interested to know what you think of these electronic balance watches. Should I do more, because there are more to be done, or should I just go straight back onto the normal mechanical stuff? Let me know in the comments. So here I was editing the video, and this is the disassembly bit. And if you remember this particular wheel, well, I didn't pay enough attention, and look at what happens at the bottom of this part. When I show it to the camera, there is a little sort of dial washer there, and I just thought that was a dial washer. I didn't notice it was on the part at all. Fitted it when I put the dial on, and it's only in edit that I noticed that, and I had to strip the whole watch down because that, I think, was probably the cause of the grittiness on the cannon pinion, which, if I'd done it right, I wouldn't have broken that part to start with. So here it is now on the time grapher. There you go, that's a little bit better, isn't it? That washer's made a bit of difference, and now I've got a correct beat error. So finally, a bit more of a win, and I feel a little bit more positive about this Citizen. And here we are, after 5 months, it's finally ticking away back in its case, and I think it looks quite good. It's definitely a very 70s Japanese watch. You've got that faceted crystal, which is really cool. High polished case, gold indices. Yeah, it's a division watch. I don't think everybody watching this video will like this style, but it was all about that movement and showing you how that actually works. You can see it here ticking away really fast. You know, it's high beat, mechanical movement, essentially powered by a battery rather than a mainspring, so you never got to worry about it ever stopping and over the weekends or when you take it off. And I guess that is the slight advantage, and it still looks mechanical because, let's face it, it is. It's fitted here with a lovely Vario strap. I think that complements it quite well. That's an Italian leather strap by Vario. I will link a link below. I do a lot of work with Vario, and I do certainly like their straps. The faceted crystal again is really nice. Indicative of the 70s. I've got plenty of these now, and I'm thinking of doing a video on the other channel of all of my facet crystals, because I'm on a mission, I think, to try and bring them back into fashion. How about that? So there we go. End of the video. I really do hope you enjoyed this one. It's been a real labour of love and loads of mishaps, and of course I included them all into the video for you to enjoy. So give it a like, please. Share it with your friends. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Loads of back videos and loads more videos to come. And guys, I'll be doing some shorter videos soon. I've got some relooming of a dial. I want to do a bench tour. I've also still got to do the Seiko quartz testing machine, because I know many of you want to see the insides of that. So stay tuned. Thanks very much. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.